Hi, Paul here from Photo Genius. Today I'm going to show you how you can take amazing firework photos with your digital camera. So in this short video I'm going to talk you through the camera equipment and the camera settings that you're going to need to take great photos of fireworks. Now the first thing you're going to need is a tripod. Stability is the key here, and a tripod will stop the camera from moving around, which can result in blurry photos. I've got this camera set up on a Manfrotto tripod, which is my personal tripod of choice. Over here I've got a Velbon tripod, which is a more budget tripod. It's a lot cheaper than the Manfrotto, but it's still a very sturdy and capable tripod. And for more information on these, check out the links below this video. Now next up is a remote device for your camera like this one for the Nikon camera. Now although you can get away without having a remote, I definitely think it's worth picking one of these up. Now the main reason we use a remote is to activate the camera's shutter without actually touching the camera. Again, stability is the key here. So for the same reason that we use the tripod, it's worth picking up a remote for your camera. Now it is worth mentioning that a remote device like this one for your camera is probably one of the cheapest accessories you're going to ever buy. You can pick these up at your local camera store. I've put some more information in the links below the video. Now if you haven't got a remote for your camera, don't worry, I've got a great tip for you, and that is to use the camera's self-timer, which is already built into the camera. The self-timer can usually be set between 2 and 10 seconds, and the idea is that it delays the picture. So when doing fireworks, select the 2-second option. That means that you can press the shutter button, the camera will count down 2 seconds, then take the picture. A great way of eliminating camera shake and those unwanted blurry photos. Now my next tip is to arrive early so you can set the camera up and do some essential test shots before the fireworks actually begin. So just like with any photo, composition is everything, and shooting with a wide lens is key here with fireworks. So 18mm is going to be perfect, but if you can go a bit wider and you do have a wide angle lens, something like 10mm is going to allow you to get a lot more in your frame. Now focusing is very important, and for this shot of Brisbane I was lucky because I had the buildings to focus on. My camera's autofocus had no issues at all with focusing on the buildings. However, you may not be so lucky. You may not have buildings or something else for the camera to focus on. In fact, all you may have is just a black sky. Now cameras don't like that. They need something to focus on. So if your camera is having issues focusing, do things the alternative way, which is to use manual focus. To engage manual focus, you'll find a switch on the side of the lens marked A or M. All you do is switch it to M and manually adjust the focus. Now if you've never used manual focus before, give it a go. It's actually very easy to do, but practice beforehand. Don't give it a go with a couple of minutes to spare before the fireworks start. You can manually focus the lens by turning the focus ring, but don't mix it up with the zoom. This is the zoom, this is the focus ring. Okay, so the camera is on the tripod, composition is looking good, focus is done. We're getting ready to take the photo. I now want to show you how to set the camera settings up. And I'm going to show you 2 ways of doing this. I suggest checking out both and choosing which one suits you best. The first way is the slightly simpler way. The second way may be a bit more complicated, but does give you more control over your exposure. So let's start by putting the camera in shutter priority, which on the Nikon here is S. It's the same on a lot of other cameras like the Olympus cameras, the Fujifilm, the Sony cameras, but on the Canon cameras, shutter priority is TV, which stands for time value. Now with shutter priority, you can control the shutter speed, you can adjust the ISO, but the camera adjusts the aperture for you, making it a lot easier to use. So we're going to begin by setting the camera's ISO to 400. ISO 400 means your camera is a little more sensitive to light, but not so much that your photo starts to suffer from digital noise and starts to look a bit grainy. To change ISO on a Canon camera, look for the ISO button, which is usually on the top or the back of the camera. Next, you need to select a shutter speed. This is the easiest one to control and change. All you do is turn the dial on the back or the top of the camera. And I'm going to suggest a starting shutter speed of around 5 seconds. So all you have to do now is press the button on the remote and stand well clear. Don't be tempted to touch the camera until you're sure it's finished taking the picture. Now I suggest experimenting and trying a few different shutter speeds, but I found that somewhere between 4 and 10 seconds tends to give me the best results. Now the manual mode gives us unlimited control over the camera settings. So let's start by putting the camera in manual, and we do that by turning the control dial on the top round to the letter M. Now as before, we set the camera's ISO to 400 and we select a starting shutter speed of 5 seconds. Okay, so we have the ISO set to 400, we have a shutter speed of 5 seconds. What we need to do next is set the aperture, because this time of course we are in the manual mode. Unlike previously where we were using shutter priority, and that's where the camera looks after the aperture for us, we have to now do it ourselves. I'm going to suggest an aperture of f11, and you do this by selecting the AV or A button on the camera and turning the dial. Now same as before, when you're ready, press the button, the camera will do its thing, but you have more control this time because you're in the manual mode. So if your picture is too dark, you want to let more light in by opening up the aperture. So to do that, you dial in a smaller f number. If your picture is too bright, you want less light coming through the aperture, so you want to make it smaller, and that means you dial a larger f number. So that's it for the camera settings. One of the key things is to experiment with the shutter speed in particular. Somewhere between 4 and 10 seconds I find works really well, but do experiment. My other advice is to take lots and lots of photos, mainly because fireworks are very unpredictable, so unfortunately you're going to miss some shots, but you're going to get some great photos as well, I'm sure, if you follow these tips. So thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video and you've picked up some great tips. If you did, give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more videos. You can leave your comments and suggestions below, where you'll also find information and details on the camera settings that I've talked about during this video, as well as info regarding things like tripods and remote control devices. I hope to see you again soon. See ya.